Some say MMOs are dead. The truth, the servers are still online, players still log in, but something around them has shifted. The obsession, the era when MMOs ruled school lunch tables and late night forums has deteriorated. The culture surrounding it has changed. And now, a new generation, or maybe just the same old players, are trying to resurrect that feeling. But what happens when you try to bring back something that wasn't just made of code, but culture? Today, we're going to dig up the body, examine what gave it life, explore its golden age, and find out whether we're chasing ghosts or if these things could or should be resurrected at all. MMOs were the social heartbeat of gaming in the 2000s. World of Warcraft, RuneScape, and Guild Wars are some of the many that had thriving communities. People gathered together using Ventrilo, TeamSpeak, in-game chats, forums, all flourishing with players discovering this new genre. They helped each other figure out quests or the best places to farm and grind. Players formed bonds and connections with each other, often even through simple, tedious tasks like chopping wood or grinding herbalism. The worlds themselves often felt endless. This wasn't just because of the sheer size of many of these games, but because the community itself lived in it. These worlds were alive no matter what zone you went to. Even if it was just a player passing by on a lonely road, you felt as if you were in it together. These games didn't hold your hand. Exploration was slow and social. Every mount earned, every zone discovered, every raid beaten, it meant something because it was hard earned and shared. This was before in-depth YouTube guides or Discord servers. Forums and guild websites were often lifelines for the community. It wasn't made by one person, but a collective knowledge that was passed down. This information was communal and discovered, not fed to you by an algorithm. There were server and guild rivalries that constantly unfolded and evolved. Every time you logged in, something had changed, something was different. It didn't just make the world feel alive, it was alive. You didn't log in just to progress, you logged in to be there, to talk, to hang out, to dance on mailboxes in Orgrimmar. In-game events felt like real-world holidays. Players often called off work or pretended to be sick to join them. Seasonal events and server-first boss kills felt monumental. Guild raids weren't just something you joined every now and then, they were meticulously planned around people's schedules and in-game events, becoming second jobs for guild leaders. You planned your weeks around when the raid was, and if you didn't show up, there were consequences. The games themselves seeped into pop culture, webcomics, YouTube videos. The iconic South Park WoW episode all became mainstream in gaming culture. The genre was fertile, exploding with fan-made content, art, cosplays. People believed MMOs were the next big thing, and that open-ended, persistent social worlds were the future. That was the golden age, not because of the graphics or systems, but because MMOs were more than just games. They were where online gaming culture lived. I've heard many people say that the MMO genre is dead or dying. World of Warcraft at peak had over 12 million players, but that was over a decade ago. MMOs used to be pillars of gaming culture, but now that grip that this genre had on the 2000s and early 2010s has faded. A good example of this is WildStar. Announced in August 2011 and developed by Carbine Studios, including ex-WoW developers like Kevin Beasley, a lead animation developer for WoW, it launched in June of 2014. The game was met with relatively good reviews. It had a great launch, but slowly the game died. Monetization decisions didn't land well. WildStar launched a subscription-based game just as many MMOs in the industry were moving away from that model. Then it switched to free-to-play in 2015, but by then, many had moved on. Buggy raids, poorly designed PvP, and a hardcore players-only mentality are some of the factors that led to the servers shutting down in 2018. This is just one example. Many MMOs have come and gone, but bad business and development decisions isn't the only reason people think the genre is dead or dying. Many of the players that enjoyed these games are now older, with jobs, responsibilities, full plates. They don't have the time to allocate to these games that often require the player to spend countless hours to be able to participate in a meaningful way. New generations, they often pick games with faster feedback loops. MMOs take time to see progress. There often isn't instant dopamine, and you're only rewarded once you have put hours into these games. Today, you can open an MMO and be met with a checklist. Log in, do your dailies, collect your reward. It's efficient, optimized, but it feels cold. There's less space for community, for connection. Those social moments that happened are less common because the world is tightly scripted. I think it's safe to say that no modern MMO has reached the cultural ubiquity that World of Warcraft reached at its peak. Thanks to the multitude of communities that make up the internet, like subreddits and Discord servers, the gaming world has become fragmented. You no longer have these giant games that take up the cultural gaming hive mind that previously existed. Gaming information on the internet has always been decentralized, but now communities seem more insular on their own little islands. And I don't think this was different in the past, but I believe the islands were fewer and larger than now. There were less choices of games to play, and I think that's also what helped the success of WoW and other MMOs. They were new and shiny. Like I said, people thought they were the future. The genre itself has also become more fragmented, whether it be the different versions of WoW, retail, classic, season of discovery, hardcore. These make the player base smaller. There are more pieces of the pie to go around. And that's just one MMO. ESO, Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy XIV all also compete in the same space. But all these MMOs that I just listed have proved the genre isn't dead. Games like Destiny, Warframe, Genshin Impact, even Roblox borrow MMO mechanics but aren't labeled as MMOs. That DNA hasn't died, it has evolved and changed. The traditional MMO genre itself still has dedicated communities. Final Fantasy XIV has a strong global community. World of Warcraft, despite decline, still maintains millions of players, and private servers that aim to recreate that classic MMO feeling are alive and well. Let's talk about old school RuneScape, the MMO that refuses to die. In fact, it's thriving. Old school RuneScape, originally launched as a 2007 backup build in 2013, has only grown in popularity. Not just as nostalgia bait, but as a living, breathing MMO with a loyal and massive player base. As of 2025, it regularly pulls in over 100,000 daily players across mobile and desktop. Jagex didn't just re-release an old version of the game, they gave the community the power to shape it. Every major update is polled and voted on, letting players help guide the development of the game. What makes RuneScape's success so fascinating is that it doesn't rely on flashy graphics or AAA funding. It leans into the ritual of the genre. Grinding, leveling skills, killing the same boss hundreds of times, trading has turned it into a nostalgic and successful gameplay loop. Players aren't logging in just for progress, they're logging in for presence, for the same reason they did in 2005, to hang out, to chill, to feel part of something bigger than themselves. It isn't a hollow recreation, but a community that never stopped living in the world it loved. While other MMOs chased trends, RuneScape doubled down on identity, and in doing so, it became more alive than ever. It is true that MMOs are less culturally dominant than they once were, but no, they aren't dead. They've just fragmented, mutated alongside their player base. But people are still trying to revive that feeling that was lost. Despite a decline in mainstream dominance, MMOs remain a genre people desperately want to believe in. These resurrection attempts aren't just about gameplay mechanics, they're about recovering a feeling, a culture, and a communal identity that's hard to replicate anywhere else. Developers aren't just trying to recreate old school MMOs like WoW, they're trying to resurrect a sense of discovery, camaraderie, and purpose. The people making these new MMOs, trying to sell that success, that feeling, need to realize it isn't about a perfect combat system or monetization models, it's about feeling part of something larger than yourself again. The grinding itself didn't matter because you grinded with your friends. The UI sucked, that didn't matter though because those memories you had didn't. I think that the rise of smartphones and social media has hyperconnected us while keeping us all emotionally distant. MMOs to many felt like communities they were a part of. Those communities still exist, definitely, but the number and sheer size and ubiquity of them has lessened or maybe fractured. A lot of online spaces, in my opinion, now feel transactional. Sure, you might be part of a Discord, but for me, I only get on to find answers to problems, not to meaningfully connect with others in a shared online space. Those communities still exist, obviously, but I think many can relate to that sentiment. There are many projects trying to recreate that feeling that MMOs once had, like Ashes of Creation. It's not a relic of the past, but a resurrection in progress. Developed by Intrepid Studios, Ashes is led by Steven Sharif, a longtime MMO player and entrepreneur who's partially self-funded the game with his own money. From the start, this wasn't just a business venture, it was a passion project. A direct response to what Sharif and many others saw as the genre's decline. Ashes is building itself around the things MMOs used to do best. A living, player-driven world, real consequences for decisions, sprawling guild politics, and no pay to win. Its flagship system, the Node system, allows cities to rise and fall based on player interaction and is a far cry from static MMO hubs. The goal isn't just to build an MMO, but to rebuild the culture around one. Its community is already treating it as if it's the future of the MMO genre. The MMO that feels like old MMOs, between the forums, YouTube channels, theory crafting, even infighting, and that way it's already halfway to becoming the thing it's trying to emulate. But this is the tricky part of resurrecting that old MMO feeling. You can bring back the mechanics, you can even recreate the scale, but the culture? That can't be programmed. The question isn't just whether Ashes of Creation will launch, it's whether it can ignite that feeling again, whether it can make people care enough to build something together. It's still in development, but one thing is clear, Ashes of Creation isn't just chasing nostalgia. It's trying to make the MMO genre matter again. This is a type of cultural necromancy, trying to resurrect what was lost, even if it's imperfect. But how do you replicate a place and time? Is that even possible? To understand why many of these resurrections feel hollow or impossible to many, we need to go back to, hear me out, 1935 to a philosopher from Berlin, Germany named Walter Benjamin. He wrote a paper called The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. He argues that mechanical reproduction, like photography, film, and printing, fundamentally changes the nature of art by stripping away its aura. And no, I don't mean the current cultural definition of the word aura, although I think they somewhat connect. It's a term he uses to describe the unique presence, authenticity, and cultural ritual tied to original works of art. He argues that art is unique in its existence in time and space, its originality, history, and cultural context. The aura of a work of art gives it authority. It connects it to a ritualistic, even sacred origin. He continues that reproduction of art allows art to be mass-produced, consumed anywhere, but in turn, detached from its original context. This democratizes art in a way, it makes it more accessible, but it also erodes the original value that art had, its uniqueness and reverence. Aura is the reason seeing the Mona Lisa in person feels different than seeing it in a book. It's the presence, the atmosphere, the weight of time and place. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Like any other type of art, video games have an aura. Booting up Vanilla WoW in 2005 wasn't just starting a game, it was entering a digital world with rules, customs, inside jokes, and communities. And RuneScape wasn't just about stats, it was about hanging out at the bank with your friends after school, or getting scammed by a guy pretending to double your GP. They existed and exist in a certain time, community, and place. That aura can't be replicated. We try to revive those games, to reproduce the shell, the mechanics, the aesthetics, but not the original cultural moment. These necromantic efforts aim to recreate an experience whose aura is fundamentally out of reach. This makes the resulting feeling spectral and hollow, like a copy of something meaningful without its soul. Now, we're trying to resurrect that feeling through classic servers, spiritual successors, endless Reddit threads, YouTube retrospectives with titles like MMOs Will Never Be the Same or like Ashes of Creation. But like Benjamin warned, once something has been reproduced, its original presence can't fully come back. We can copy the mechanics, the graphics, the interface. We can replicate the code, but we can't bring back the moment. We can't log in to 2007 again. The community has changed. The world has changed. We have changed. The MMO genre isn't dying, it's just evolved. But what many of us are really mourning isn't the genre, it's the moment we shared around it, the culture we built in places like Azeroth, one we'll never quite get back. So, if we can't bring back the original aura, the sacred time of early MMOs, is that the end of the road? Not exactly. Aura fades with reproduction, but it isn't gone forever. It changes. It can be reborn in new forms. And maybe the key isn't recreating old MMOs, it's embracing the conditions that generate a new aura today. Back then, aura came from novelty, from the first time you logged into a world that felt endless and alive. But now, maybe aura comes from intimacy, from games that know they're part of a long legacy but dare to build something more personal, different. Look at games like Final Fantasy XIV. It doesn't pretend to be 2004, it leans into rich storytelling. Or Guild Wars 2, which builds community events into the world's DNA. Or even VR chat, where the MMO rules are totally bent, but the feeling of presence, of social ritual, of emergent culture is still very real. Aura now isn't about being first, it's about being meaningful. Developers need to ask themselves not how do we recreate the golden age of MMOs, they need to ask how do we create something that feels sacred to this generation at this time. Because aura doesn't live in nostalgia alone, it lives in the unrepeatable, the communities we built in real time, the memories we didn't know we were making yet. So yes, we may be performing cultural necromancy, but not all resurrection is doomed to fail, not if we stop trying to copy the corpse, but start building new myths. The Golden Age wasn't about just the games, it was about the people who made them feel golden. And that can happen again. The genre isn't dead, but maybe the culture around them, the mythos, the magic, the moment in time, has changed, and that's okay. Because the truth is, no genre stays the same forever. You can't resurrect 2004 or that exact feeling of logging into your first MMO. That aura, it belonged to a specific time, to a specific crowd, to a specific you. But that doesn't mean MMOs can't still matter, or still move us. New games, new players, new kinds of connection, they're all capable of creating their own aura. Not by trying to recreate the past pixel for pixel, but by understanding what made it special in the first place. Community, immersion, and the thrill of being part of something bigger than yourself. We can't revive a corpse, but we can build something new. So whether you're still raiding every week, or you just remember the login screen of RuneScape with a fond sigh, you're part of this story, and it's not over. Maybe the real question isn't whether MMOs are dead, but whether we're ready to build the kind of communities that made them matter in the first place. Thanks for watching. If this video brought back a memory or made you think a little differently about your favorite genre, I'd love to hear about it. And if you want more videos like this, like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the journey. Until next time, this has been Safe State by SavePoint Sage.